This glass is so light. If I hold this glass for a minute, it'll seem like it's okay because it's light, right? If I hold this for an hour, it'll start getting heavier. If I hold this for a day, it's gonna get much heavier. But if I hold it for like a year, it's all I'm gonna be thinking about. If you think about it, that's the same as a grudge, right? Why is a small thing like this so heavy? And the only way I could stop thinking about this glass is if I let go. That's all I'm gonna be thinking about. Even now, like I've been holding this for only a few minutes and it's already hurting my shoulders and my arm, right? So think about if I hold on to this for an hour, a day, a year, I would despise holding on to this glass of water. So that metaphor represents grudge, the anger that we hold on to, the people's opinions that we don't like. We hold on to those grudges, we hold on to those opinions, and we keep repeating those negative thoughts in our head. The longer we hold on to them, the heavier it gets. Even though things are so simple, so small, we hold on to them. But why? Do we really have to hold on to it? We always have a choice to let it go, just like the glass. Put it aside, let it go. I don't mean by dropping the glass. I mean just put it aside. Don't hold on to it. That's a choice that we can make. And it's like the stories we tell ourselves, the thoughts we consume in our head. Those opinions will get heavier and heavier the longer we hold on to it. And the only way to make it lighter is to let it go. Put it aside. So first of all, why do we feel this way? It's usually because we have a belief. They should have known. They should know better. What were they thinking? They're so dumb to think that way. All those thoughts come into play when we hear opinions of others, when people are getting mad at us, we get into arguments. When you're in that kind of situation, it's so easy to start thinking of negative things, and it's so easy to just judge people. Think of it as like a hard drive, a computer hard drive, right? From the moment we were born, we were empty. And then the more we grow, the more information we consume. Our parents telling us how it's like, what it's like, our friends telling us to do this, to do that. We consume all this information, and this is how we get molded. And all this information get into the hard drive, right? You know the saying that we don't know what you don't know? That's mostly how life is, right? We only really know what we know. It's so easy for us to just assume things, to say our opinions. We rarely put ourselves in other people's position or people's beliefs, right? Because we, as human beings, we're so selfish. We don't even think about it. It's so normal that we think that way. I'm just saying, like a majority of people are selfish. Let's be honest. We don't put into consideration the people's race, how they were raised, the country they're from. They could be new to the country and we're just assuming and judging them for who they are or for something that they said. Maybe that's how they were brought up and they don't really know that there's another side to the story, another way of dealing with things, another way of saying things. Like, take for example, please and thank you, right? A lot of countries out there don't know how to say please and thank you. But here in Canada, you're a very rude person if you don't say please and thank you. That alone is it's so simple, it's so natural for Canadians to say that. But other countries, they don't say that. And if we meet people like that, we assume immediately that they're very rude. But maybe they've never heard of please and thank you. You gotta put that into consideration before you say something to the other people. And I think the one thing that you must realize is the world is out of your control. People are out of your control. Situations, ideas, thoughts, and opinions, they are out of your control. We cannot control people. We cannot control what they think of, what they say. The only thing you can control is your emotions, your anger, your thoughts. You can only control you. And I think one of the best things to deal with these things is awareness, being aware that you're starting to get angry. You have to be consciously reminding yourself that, hey, stop, you're starting to get angry. Is this worth it? Do I need to be in this kind of argument? Do I need to be yelling? You have to train yourself to think that way. And if you're starting to get into an argument, especially let's say with a spouse or a family member or a friend, pause, take a deep breath, breathe, count 1 to 10. Continue the conversation after 24 hours. Don't talk about it now in the heat of the moment, because most of the time you will regret it. So like I said, before you react, let 24 hours go, and you'll be surprised the next day you'd probably forget about it if it was that small of a problem, or if it was a big deal, you actually find a solution. Both of you will probably find a solution and come to terms and meet in the middle. Both your emotions are like low right now. You're not overreacting to the situation. You know what I mean? Most of the time we usually focus on the problem and we don't focus on the solution, right? We get angry so quick. But guess what? The other person probably already forget about it. When it's just like a relationship, when you're with a couple and you break up, the person that broke up with you, they're probably moved on already. They're probably already finding somebody else, right? And yet you suffer. You keep thinking about negative thoughts. You keep thinking of why they did this, why they did that, how could they do this to you? Where did you go wrong? Those kinds of thoughts will make you suffer. Was that really necessary? I'm making it sound so easy, but it could be, right? But instead of thinking of those kinds of thoughts, negative thoughts, we could start thinking of positive things. Like, now I'll have more time for myself. Now I could finally do the things I've always wanted to do. I could finally go to that adventure I've always wanted to do. I could finally do the activities I wanted to do. Now I have more time for myself. We gotta switch that way of thinking. Yes, mourn for a bit, cry for a bit. But once you let those crying times go, you need to start changing the way you think. Like that glass metaphor, right? The more you hold on to it, the more it gets heavier. Let it go. Start thinking of something positive. Start working on yourself. Start thinking of how you could go through your day. How could you feel better today? It really is a mental game. I want you to imagine this. If one day if you go to the doctor and you are feeling some kind of pain, and the doctor said to you that you got this weird kind of disease and you only got 24 hours to live. Now, how would you live your life then? How would you live the next 24 hours? How would you think in the next 24 hours? How would you act? How would you spend your time in the next 24 hours? You have to think of it that way, right? Every time you get in an argument, is this argument really worth it? Is this how I'm going to react if I only had 24 hours to live? Is this how I'm going to think if I only had 24 hours to live? And the majority of the time, you will probably let those things go. There's no point of stressing over it. There's no point of wasting your time thinking of how it could have, what it should be, what it might have been. Put yourself in that position every single time, and you will live a life with less stress. Live life day by day. And I don't mean don't think about the future. Of course, have plans for the future. Have an idea of your destination, but the path to that destination has many possibilities. There's many options to getting through there. And that destination of happiness, the destination of the future for your family and your life, it doesn't always turn out to the way you thought it would be, right? Another thing you gotta consider is accepting the circumstance, accepting what is happening right now. If you went through a breakup or you went through an argument with your spouse, you're probably having mixed emotions. But you also gotta realize that nothing is permanent. A lot of these things are temporary. And one thing I keep trying to do to myself is like, just imagine the kids, right? When kids have tantrums, the best way to make them feel better is to distract them. Show them something that they'll like. Distract them with something in order for them to stop the tantrum. You telling them to stop and immediately stop will make it worse. They will just keep crying, sometimes even make it louder. By you distracting them, their focus changes. And that's what we gotta do, right? Same thing with the negative thoughts. We gotta divert it to a positive thinking. We gotta divert it to solutions. We gotta divert it to how we could make this circumstance better. Another thing I do sometimes is I remind myself that we are in the situation we are in because we were meant to be there. For example, like 9/11, a lot of stories that you'd probably hear, people forgetting their stuff at home, that they had to drive back at home. And if they didn't go back home, they would have been there in the tower in 9/11 and they would have been dead. People got stuck in the bridge. Same thing, you know. If they weren't stuck in the bridge, yes, they were late for work, but if they were on time for work, then they would have been gone. And it's the same thing in life, right? We just have to have faith that we are where we are. This situation, this circumstance was meant to be. And if you keep thinking of it that way, then it makes us stronger, it makes us better. And again, that 24 hours thing, right? Live your life as if it's your last. That's what they say. And I truly believe that because it's the best way to let things go. To me, it's also a waste of energy by thinking of those negative things, by reacting too quickly to the negative circumstance. Life would be less stressful, and the more you let things go, the easier life will get. Just believe, just have faith that things will work out, that things will get better. It usually does, you know, just like a roller coaster. Sometimes you're at the bottom, sometimes you're at the top, and that's just the way it is. And by you accepting that and you letting things go, you know that these problems will eventually go away. Like I said, it's temporary. These things will go away. Eventually, you will be at a position where you're going to be much happier and be better off. It's the best feeling to have, you know. It's getting rid of that weight on your chest. You gotta learn to let it go. That way you won't be holding on to something so simple, so small, and yet so heavy.